Tonight, just ahead of this show, a slightly nutty thing happened. We'd gotten this reporting from the Washington Post about 5 p.m. Eastern time tonight. Quote, White House plans to fight the House subpoena of former White House counsel Don McGahn for testimony on the Mueller report. White House lawyers saying they're going to try to assert executive privilege so Don McGahn can't tell Congress about the incidents he described to the special counsel that could be construed as the president criminally obstructing justice. Fascinating story, fascinating effort by the White House, right? Because McGahn has already testified about those things to the special counsel. So it's a little late for the White House to be trying to say those things are privileged and can't be discussed outside the White House. Because of that scoop from the Washington Post tonight, we made plans to talk to one of the reporters who got that scoop. We made plans to talk to reporter Robert Costa. But then as we were racing towards showtime, Robert surprisingly let us know that, he had just received a call from the president himself. Quote, President Trump says he is opposed to current and former White House aides providing testimony to congressional panels in the wake of the special counsel report, intensifying a power struggle between his administration and House Democrats. In an interview with the Washington Post, Trump said that complying with congressional requests was unnecessary after the White House cooperated with special counsel Robert Mueller's probe of Russian interference and the president's own conduct in office. The president said in this interview tonight, quote, there is no reason to go any further, and especially in Congress, where it's very partisan, obviously very partisan. Joining us now is one of the reporters who got that scoop tonight, Washington Post national political reporter Robert Costa. Bob, thank you very much for being here tonight. I really appreciate this on short notice.
Good to be with you.
So the president not only is telling you that he intends to try to block everybody who's worked in the Trump White House from testifying to Congress, he's telling you that he believes he's on strong legal ground to do that?
And he's also making a political argument, and that was what came through in the conversation with President Trump tonight. He believes he has won a political victory with the Mueller report, and now he wants to kick the battle to the federal courts if Congress tries to pursue their subpoena requests with people like Don McGahn, as you've outlined. And he believes that he can say he's cooperated with Mueller and the American people will follow along, but Congress and House Democrats will continue to fight and demand for these officials to testify.
Does the president seem to have any understanding of the executive privilege trouble he might now have with not only Don McGahn, but with anybody from the Trump White House who was allowed by the Trump White House to go give testimony to the special counsel's office? Legal experts that we've talked to tell us that this is a somewhat uncomplicated thing, that matters are either privileged or they're not. And once anybody has been allowed to testify about them or indeed provide documents that document those things happening in the White House or even directly with the president, you've essentially forfeited your ability to say that they're covered by executive privilege and can't be conveyed to Congress.
And that is a widespread view in the legal community. But the view inside of the White House, talking to the president and top White House officials, is that they believe they will now put lawyers and witnesses for people related to this probe in a tough position where in effect they'll be forced to choose between the White House's position be a protracted fight in federal court. And that's, at the end of the day, what many people inside of this White House, including the president, want. If someone's going to be compelled to testify, even if legal experts say that privilege is effectively waived because of the way this has been handled, the White House would like to see it fought over the coming months ahead of 2020 in the courts.
So effectively, their plan here is not necessarily to win in the end, but to delay long enough that they can sort of live to fight another day?
People close to McGahn say they know that his commentary in the Mueller report is unlikely to be seen as privileged because it's in a federal report that's been released to the public. However, now that the president is leaning toward asserting executive privilege in the coming months or weeks even, you're going to have McGahn in the position where his lawyer, Bill Burke, and him will have to say, well, if the White House is going to raise this concern, who's going to be the person who adjudicates the dispute?
Mm-hmm. Robert, I also just have to ask you, you're reporting out this story tonight. You guys have this scoop about the White House making this approach. It has to be a little jarring to directly get a call from the president, to be on the phone with the president himself, explaining his own thoughts for you on this matter. It's my understanding that this didn't come out of some formal request by you for a presidential interview, that he just got on the phone.
I was working on another story, and he called about that and asked him some questions about the news of the day. Actually, Rachel, wasn't jarring at all. It was a reminder that this president and this administration, everything, the tone, the strategy, political and legal, is set from the top. He sets the pace inside of this White House. And some White House officials texted me after the president called and said that they were waiting for him to articulate his own views publicly and privately about exactly where he's leaning on executive privilege. And he showed it tonight in the interview with the Washington Post. It's Mr. President Trump alone often thinking through the strategy, not so much a groupthink inside of the White House.
Wow. Washington Post national political reporter Bob Costa. Robert, thank you very much for your time tonight. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
I should also tell you that Robert's going to share more in his conversation with the president tonight on the 11th hour with Brian Williams. Brian Williams is a much better interviewer than me for the in the first instance, so you should watch that. But Brian's going to have more on that story altogether. Lots more to get to tonight, even still this hour. Stay with us.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.